Welcome to this evening's DSVC May speaker meeting. I'm this season's DSVC president. I'm Andrea Willis, and we have Steve Wolf Designs here with us tonight, and he's going to be talking all about the amazing work that he's done, and we'll get to be able to learn a little bit more about him. I have a few announcements that I want to take us through, so just bear with me while I do a screen share. All right, again, welcome to this evening's meeting. I'm Andrea Willis, this season's 2021 president, and we have Steve Wolf Designs as this evening's speaker. If you have a question for Steve, please get on to slido.com and enter event code 86233 or scan the QR code, take a snapshot with your phone. I'd also like to welcome our local school of the month, Sam Houston State University, and want to take you through a few screens of their amazing student artwork that they submitted to us. Really nice stuff. And wanted to welcome our national school of the month, Old Dominion University. Great work, you guys. So for announcement, stay tuned. Dallas Show is coming up for the Events and Awards Gala. Tickets are going to be opening soon, so stay tuned. Make sure that you're checking your email because we'll be sending out event emails and notifications soon, and it'll also be on the website too. Award show to attendance is $50. To attend the award show and official drink menu, that's $75. And for the third tier, award show, official drink menu, and access to vote for the People's Choice Award is $100. If you have any questions, please reach out to Lakon or Paula at dsvc.org. Wanted to touch base on the membership options for DSVC, and there's lots of benefits to becoming a member. For pro membership, it's as little as $15 a month. Junior memberships are $8.75 a month. And for student memberships, those go for just $6.50 a month. You get free entry to speaker meetings, savings on event tickets, workshops and forums, our bike event, Dallas Show entries, golf tournament, and more special events. I also want to welcome our incoming next season's president, Don Eccles. He's amazing and talented and super funny guy. So please give him a warm welcome for next season. Lots of good things to look forward to. And wanted to put this Q&A Slido screen back on there. Make sure that you take a picture or capture this event code, which is hashtag 86233. And Ryan Chrisman is going to introduce Steve.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, well, guys, we have made it. We are officially into May. We're into our last speaker series meeting of the year. So it's been crazy. It's been a crazy ride on Zoom every month with you guys, but glad to be rounding it out with Steve. I think we've got a great, I can't think of anybody better actually to finish the season off, and we're just really excited to have him tonight. So Steve is he's up in Nebraska now, but he's a Texan at heart. So he's got Austin deep down in his heart. So we love him for that, for a lot of other reasons. So I'll go ahead and introduce Steve and then turn it over to him. So Steve Wolf uses his design experience to support brands of all sizes, telling their stories through timeless visuals and strategic thinking. Steve's philosophy of continuity, resilience, and simplicity result in elegant, sophisticated works aimed to stand the test of time. He has worked on some awesome brands such as Target, Columbia, even Austin FC, Austin's new MLS team, which I think is especially awesome. And a true artisan, when not in front of his computer, Steve can be found painting in his garage, seeking inspiration in antique shops, or traveling the globe. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Steve and let him finish out our season.
Yes, thank you, Ryan. Let me share my screen here. All right, yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve. I'm very excited to speak with you all tonight. Big thank you to the team at DSVC for having me and all of your support that you've given me up until now. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. So picture this. It's 1993. I'm about 5 years old. And it's a bright and sunny day in Kearney, Nebraska. And while my brother and sister are playing outside, I'm inside. I used to stay a lot indoors and just draw. I used to watch my dad draw in front of me, and I would try to mimic what he would do. And, I'd repeat this for hours and hours. And, I have a lot of fond memories growing up of drawing things and creating things. And I was fortunate enough to be encouraged by my family to pursue creativity. And, it was just being creative in this small town in Nebraska that kind of led to where I am today. And it was also in high school that I actually developed a passion for drawing cars of all things. And I'd fill up sketchbook after sketchbook after sketchbook of drawing my own cars. And I had this dream of becoming a car designer or an industrial designer. My dreams, however, were shattered when I learned how much math and engineering was actually involved. All I took was algebra in high school, and the cost of tuition in LA was like 40 grand a year. So my dreams were kind of crushed. But despite those challenges, I still knew I was going to be an industrial designer, and I had a plan. And I was going to attend the local university here in Kearney, Nebraska, and then maybe transfer to another school with an industrial design program. And I began taking a lot of fine art classes in college here. And I also took AutoCAD classes because I wanted to be an industrial designer. And Nebraska isn't maybe seen as such a huge creative hub, but it was actually a really, really great university here where I learned a lot and a lot of discipline that and basic tools I needed to be successful. And here's actually a few of the pieces I created my freshman year that are still hanging up in a gallery today. That art gallery would be in my parents' living room. So it's still up there in this awesome little gallery on my parents' wall. One day in October, when I was in college, right around Halloween, during my sophomore year, a professor by the name of Rick Schuessler stopped me in the hallway. And he said, "Hey, Steve, I've noticed you've been taking a lot of art classes. Have you ever considered graphic design?" And I was like, "I'm not even sure what that is." And he said, "Well, there's an informational meeting about the graphic design program and would love for you to come." And I was like, I don't think I'm going to, but he came prepared. He said there's going to be free food and candy at the meeting. So I said, of course, I'll definitely be there. I was a broke college kid and I've never turned down free food. And, this meeting pretty much was a turning point in my life. And basically when I decided to pursue graphic design, I was drawn to all the different ways I could develop my creative skills. I was blown away after learning all the different things that you could do with graphic design. And it was at this meeting at college. And I learned a large focus of the design program was learning about the Bauhaus design movement and a lot of mid-century designers. And these designers I was exposed to are still major influences in my design work today. Designers such as Paul Rand, Max Bill, Iko Tanaka, Otto Eicher. I studied their work and I tried to learn what they were doing, and I was fascinated with them. I'd stare at their work for hours, and even to this day, I'm still really big fans and they're big influences in the work that I create today. So the next phase of my life, I was actually an intern at a local marketing agency here in Nebraska. And I was working and I got a text message from a fellow classmate in the design program. And he said, "Hey, there's a design position open in Dallas, Texas at the job he was working at." And he said, "Maybe you should apply." And I was young, single, I was ready for adventure. And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to apply." And I've got a job interview in Dallas and I flew down there, did the interview, and I actually got the job a few weeks later. And looking back, it's amazing how a single connection can have such a big impact on your life and where you live and where you work and where that job can possibly take you. So moved to Dallas, Texas, and this was my first job out of college at Panini America. Yes, like the sandwich Panini. And Panini is a sports and entertainment company out of Dallas, Texas. And I got to design for all the major sports leagues, the NFL, NBA, NHL, and MLB. I even got to design for entertainment things like Justin Bieber. And it was here that I learned a lot about how to be an adult in the real world. This was my first job out of college. My boss actually made all of us come into work at 7:00 a.m. every day. And if we were a minute late, we would get ripped out in the room next door. I learned a lot working here, got to work in a team. And as I progressed throughout the company, I actually became an art director where I got to experience and manage people. And you can see some of the work here with some of the sports cards that I created over the years when I was working here. After about 4 years, I was ready for a change. And, I reached out to a designer I admired. His name was Simon Walker. He's an amazing typographer. And I wanted to see if he knew of any jobs out in Austin, Texas. And, I really wanted to live and work down there. I was fascinated by Austin, the creative scene. And it just so happened that when I reached out to him, he was leaving the local ad agency there, GSD&M, and there was going to be a vacant spot. And so he put my name in, and that's when I moved from Dallas to Austin. I got the job there. I interviewed down there. My wife and I moved down to Austin in 2014. And at GSD&M, the advertising agency here, my very first day, I thought it'd just be a walk through easy day, just kind of go through the layout of the office, meet some people. I actually didn't get home until 2 a.m. my very first day at GSD&M. That was my first taste of agency life. Fortunately, it wasn't like that every day, and I absolutely loved the design team I worked with there, and also had a great boss, which I learned made the biggest difference in my time there. I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to work on a lot of cool, high-profile projects while I was there. You can see a quick list of some of the clients and some of the projects I got to work on there. And it was kind of around this time that I was doing a lot of side hustle work after my 9-to-5 job. And so in late 2012, I was on Dribble, and I visited the profile of Tom Lane, a great designer, and I saw the work he did for a clothing company called Hook and Irons. And I was very impressed with the designs. I got onto their website. I purchased a couple of their shirts because I loved them. And shortly afterwards, I actually received an email from the owner of this clothing company and found out I was a designer, and our styles aligned with what I was making at the time. And he actually hired me to do my very first freelance work just because of that. It was the types of things I've been posting on Dribble included, t-shirts, some of the stuff I was doing at Panini, small illustrations, lettering. And, it was really because I was just posting my work online and had that connection. And that was how I was able to kind of attract my first future clients. And, in those early years, my primary sources of clients came from leads from Dribble, and that led to my personal website. And even before I got my very first client, I'd been posting my work on Dribble very consistently, if not every day. And, my schedule is very different now than when I was working back then. I have a family and some small kids. And as a side note, I want to acknowledge that a lot of these platforms, such as Dribble, have changed over the years. And when I began to use them, they were still new platforms, very exciting at the time. It was a great opportunity to get into that scene. That being said, I think it's important to put out the work you want to attract as many places as possible. And I also even had a Pinterest account. It's something that not a lot of people knew. I had a lot of followers there, and I was even able to get a few leads from places like Dribble. So you never know where you might get some leads. And you can kind of see the evolution of my style throughout the years. You know, I started with very, you know, hand-drawn illustration work to lettering. Again, like I mentioned, got the hook and irons clients, kind of got into logo design and branding, and even got into more simplistic modern design. You know, it's important to explore and not be afraid to try new things, to really find out what you're passionate about and what you're interested in. You can even see how you can change throughout time. It's okay. When I started freelancing, I really didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to make cool work. Didn't know a lot about the business side of things. And you know, I got ghosted by a lot of clients, didn't have contracts even on some projects. I didn't know how to present my work. And I made all the mistakes pretty much. But I'm grateful because it forced me to learn and grow with each experience. I also did have a secret weapon. My wife, Danielle, noticed me struggling with the business side of things and came in and helped me develop all the systems that I needed, organized everything. And, you know, it allowed me to focus on all the creative stuff, which I was good at. And so, you know, I would not be here today without the help of my wife, Danielle, and she still continues to help me equally in our business as a partner with all the project management, strategy, even now client management, emails, organization. She does it all on that side of the thing. So in 2018, we decided to take the leap and we quit our day jobs. I was still working at GSD9, and we bought our first home. And we found out we were expecting our first baby. And we also turned 30. You know, this was all in the same year. It was a very crazy year, but all of these things kind of, you know, launched us into where we are today. And looking at just a little bit of our work, don't want to ramble too long, but we focus on developing brand identities, brand illustration systems, and packaging design. We've been fortunate enough to work with some great clients over the years, but more importantly, great people. This is a quick example of just a few logos that we've done over the years. Also, just a very quick snapshot of some packaging, some more printed collateral that we've done. We've done city branding, something where, you know, we're always learning and we're excited to see what's happening in the future with our work. But I wanted to get into some quick notes about some things that I have learned over the years that I'd love to share with you. Simplicity is king. You know, as a designer, it's easy to overthink things sometimes. Sometimes simple things have more of an impact. I learned to trust my gut and really be confident with what I create. And this also kind of applies to my own design work as well. Sometimes simple is a little bit better. Do the work, stay consistent, and the results will follow. You know, there's no real shortcuts in this field. If you really put in the hard work and you do it consistently, that's trying to learn consistently, post your work consistently, get better consistently, results will come, I promise you that. Create work you want to do more of, and even if that doesn't exist. It's actually how I started a little bit of my career. I would explore, create fictitious projects, case studies, and I would put it out there. And I would create work that I thought I wanted to do, that I was good at. And lo and behold, I was able to attract work based off of what I created. And, you know, I found that, you know, it can be more efficient when I focus on things that I'm good at and that I just keep doing more of. So create the work you want to do more of. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I know I don't know everything. I found it's extremely helpful to ask other people if, you know, for help if I need it. As a pretty stubborn person, it's very difficult for me to do. And I try to work on this every day. I found that I can be way more efficient when I focus on the things that I'm good at and I get help for the things that I'm not good at. So please don't be afraid to ask for help out there. Become a part of the design community. You know, this past year has really taught us how important it is to be in community with one another. And, you know, we've learned so much through connecting and having conversations with other creatives, asking them questions about how they run their business. You know, how do they work with clients? What are some things that they know? And, you know, we also try to give advice and things and share the things that we've learned to other people. And it's amazing what you can learn from other people just by having a conversation. We actually just talked to Brian Winkler in Oklahoma City, and he mentioned something, and he made a note about how comfort kills creativity. And that's really stuck with Danielle and I just very recently. Even just talking with other people, we've learned these nuggets about comfort kills creativity, and it's been making us think and how true that is. And just by being a part of the community, again, learning from other people, you never know what you're going to learn. Become a better writer. Good writers are good communicators. For me, it's been important to become a better writer so I can communicate my work to clients more effectively. This also applies to things about how to write a better email. You can never become a good enough writer. I know I have a lot of work to do, but it's something that I've definitely seen the benefits of just becoming a better writer and how to learning to become a better writer. Find your voice. Do a lot of work over time, and then take a step back and analyze it to see what works best for you. This has taken me some time, but after years of practicing design, I feel more confident in what I want to do and what I'm passionate about. I constantly analyze my work to see where I can grow. And sometimes it takes, doing it for years to see, is this what I want to continue to do? How can I improve what I'm doing? Sometimes it just takes going through your portfolio, your Illustrator files, seeing, how can I improve? Do I want to do something else? Do I feel like, this is the route that I want to take? And in my case, in my career, I've changed what I wanted to do and what I have done multiple times. And it's okay. I feel like I'm kind of getting into my groove with what I feel like I want to keep doing more of. But in my case, it took years and years and years. So sometimes just take a step back and see what you're doing and what's working best for you. And I want to end this with, helping each other and giving back as often as you can. I know 2020 was a crazy year for everybody. It's something we want to do as much as we can. We want to help each other. We want to give back where we can, even if that's just talking to other creators and sharing, if it's talking to young designers, giving the advice and knowledge that we know. I think it's something that we can all do a little bit more of, including myself, just helping each other and giving back when we can. I think that's important these days. So thank you for letting me speak a little bit about my journey, my work. I wanted to not ramble on too long, just so that we have time for Q&A, but hopefully, you're able to learn something about my personal journey and what we do here at Steve Wolf Designs. But thank you for listening for this talk.
That was awesome, Steve. Thanks, man. Thanks for your time. That was a great talk. I loved all the little takeaways at the end there too. That was great things to leave us with. Great little tidbits there. I feel like you need a set of postcards with all those things.
Oh, yes,
all those things on them. You could sell that. That's an idea. Put that on your shop.
I'm taking notes right now. Yes.
Yeah, make postcards out of those and put those in your shop.
Yes. I'll give you a cut for the idea. So.
Okay, good. I'll take that. I'm not mad at a free cup. Sure. Well, yeah, great. So everybody, keep sending questions. We've got a good little start of questions in the Slido. So don't forget, it's in the YouTube live chat. You can find a link to it. Get in there, keep writing some questions down for Steve, and then we'll kind of get into some of these. So, so some good questions here, Steve. Maybe we'll start with this one. Somebody asked, what is your, so maybe we worked at Panini. So do you have like a collection of sports cards that you designed? And if so, what is your prized sports card?
Yes. It's funny, I collected cards as a kid. So I had all those cards. I actually just recently looked through those for the first time in years. I was like, oh my gosh, I remember all these. But I was able to get some cards while I was working there. Actually bought some of my cards on eBay. There's a whole secondary market of buying and flipping cards. So I would always try to get on eBay and try to buy a card that I designed, just so I had it as in my collection. My most prize card, gosh. I have a Tom Brady card with like a piece of his jersey in it. It's kind of rare. So like I always try to keep that like cased away. Don't touch it. Don't look at it. I don't want to touch it or ruin it. But I think that's one of my most prized cards I think that I have. So yeah.
That's a good one. Did you ever interact with any players working at Panini, or just all behind the scenes?
Yeah, so every now and then they would invite pro athletes to come into the office because they would hand sign the cards there. I remember meeting Blake Griffin when he was a rookie. Like all the Cowboys players like Emmitt Smith, because they were there in Dallas, so they would always kind of be coming in there. That was a really cool kind of like bonus thing that we kind of got to see and briefly meet some of the pro athletes that would come in. That was a really fun perk there.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. It looks like maybe we didn't answer this question to somebody's satisfaction, because then they wrote in again and said, "What is your prize sports card that you didn't design?" So maybe they wanted to know that too.
Gosh, that I didn't design. I have some old Michael Jordan cards that I've kind of kept over the years. I need to see how much they're worth, but I have a feeling they're probably worth something because it's just Michael Jordan, But I have a few of those.
It feels like there's been like a sports card boom, like with like all this talk about there's like in the NFTs, crypto, and then sports cards are like somehow in this mix of like things that are just like gaining value like crazy. So you need to find a way. You design some of those. You need to make those NFTs. You need to find a way to capitalize on that.
I know, right? Yeah, I've been following that. It's so wild to see that. It's like it's completely probably changing the industry. I mean, who knows what those NFTs are going to do to everything. So it's an exciting time for sports cards too. Just seeing like people getting back into it as a hobby and collecting again. Yeah, it's cool to see that.
It is kind of cool. It's kind of reminiscent of like a different era. So
for sure.
It's pretty sweet. Okay, let's see some other good questions in here. How about just what did you do to maintain sanity this past year? COVID year, what did you do to stay sane?
Yeah, so my wife and I, we have a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old now. We actually had a baby during COVID, a COVID baby. So, actually our family and children were, it's a lot of responsibility, takes up a lot of time. That kind of made things go fast, like time went fast. We were balancing work, family, the kids. We moved during 2020. It was just a crazy year. So in terms of, staying sane, that was part of it. Just like so much going on, not, I wasn't just like in my room all day, just like, I can't go outside, which obviously not very many of us could anyways. But it's what we've learned recently actually is connecting with people. And even if that's through Zoom, my wife and I have been very actively trying to do that, especially with other creatives. Like, hey, let's hop on a quick Zoom call. Let's just chat. Like, how was your year? What did you do? And that connection kind of made things feel a little bit more normal. And it's something that we're still trying to do now, even though, with the vaccines coming out and things kind of getting maybe a little bit back to normal, we're still trying to connect that way, even if it's through Zoom. And we love that. That kind of kept us sane. Other than that, it was hard at certain times for sure, but just, taking it day by day is kind of what we did. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely key. Connection is key. So somebody wants to know what questions you ask yourself when you're analyzing your own work. So as you're like looking at your own work, giving self-critique, what are things that you're thinking through or asking yourself?
Yeah, number one is, do I still enjoy making this work that I'm doing? Like I mentioned, I've kind of gone through some style transitions over the year, and that was also due to part of just like my taste changing and like my experiences that I was having in my life affected things where maybe I learned about another designer or a style. I'm like, oh, wow, like maybe that feels more true to who I am. And I would practice that. I would explore that. And if I learned that, I was loving that more than what I was currently doing, I would kind of analyze and say like, okay, here's what I've been doing, but here's like what I'm doing right now. And I'm I'm getting a lot more excited about this thing. So just like comparing what the work I was doing at the time and not being afraid to just go into a new direction. Also, like if I'm putting work out there, you know, am I getting some good traction with clients coming in? How's it doing with like the public perception? I know it can be easy to get wrapped up a little bit too much with that. Like it's not all about the likes or how popular you get. But you know, sometimes you get good reactions when you put stuff out there, and sometimes that can be a sign, hey, maybe I'm good at this. Maybe I should be doing more of this. So analyzing those ways, also just like is, you know, I think it really just comes down to, am I loving what I'm doing, and analyzing it that way. So
yeah, I think that's a great perspective to have on it. So you and I were talking about this a little bit before we hopped on air, but this question is, what was it like working on the Austin FC logo with that team? How was dealing with the MLS, the ownership group, and the design process, et cetera? So as much as you can share, they're interested in how that went.
Sure. So the Butler brothers in Austin, Texas, they're a small little studio there. They contacted me and they said, hey, there's a pro sports team coming to town. Would you like to be part of it? I was like, yeah, I would love to be a part of that. And so there was a small design team formed, both just like internally there at Butler Brothers and a few other designers. Lauren Dickens was one, another awesome designer there in Austin. And we were part of the design team to create the Austin FC identity. And you know, it was a daunting task. There's a lot of pressure. You know, how do you create the city's first sports team logo? We worked hand in hand with the ownership of Austin FC. So actually the CEO was a huge part of the decision-making process. So we would present to him live. The whole process from start to finish lasted a few months, like maybe 3-4 months. It was a long time to work on a project. We did countless iterations and we explored everything you could think of. And, you know, going through all those explorations, you know, we learned a lot. We learned a lot about other MLS teams, the industry. We learned a lot about the city. We learned a lot about what people liked and disliked. We all collaborated together, and we finally netted out on this tree, this oak tree. And you know, if you're familiar with Austin, these oak trees are everywhere throughout the city. There's a lot of meaning there, you know, with the roots. And there's actually 11 leaves on the tree that represented like the number of players on the team. Like we try to incorporate some symbolism in there. But we pitched the final designs. The owner loved it, and it kind of just went from there. And you know, now they're implementing all the design work. They're playing. They've won a couple games, which is so cool to see. But it was learning a lot about being patient and not just creating something that looks cool. It's how do you think about, in this case, how do you think about a whole city, a community? How do you get them to rally behind the design? But then how do you also please the client? You know, the owner had the final say, really. It was kind of going back and forth and trying to balance things. And so that persistency and that consistency paid off in the end. And now Austin has a pro soccer team, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, well, it was cool. I feel like that team was like a very like Austin-y like design team. So it was kind of cool seeing, because I remember when you guys all posted all that work, I was like, wow, these feel like the Austin designers like working on the team. So it was just cool to see that it wasn't like, you know, some dude at the Adidas headquarters who like just kind of sketched up the logo. I feel like it was cool that you guys like who had this, you knew the city, you knew the DNA of the city, and then you're able to like take that and translate that into the work. Was just seemed really cool from the outside.
Yeah, we all have different styles. We all have our different like takes on Austin and design. The Butler brothers did an amazing job. leading the whole project forward. And, you know, they've lived and breathed Austin their whole life. So it was a great team to be a part of and something that I'm very, very proud of.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty sweet. Not everybody can see their logo like on a pro sports team jersey. So
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
The absolute like mind blown moment would be if you're still making trading cards, you designed your own trading card with a player wearing your logo on their jersey. That would be like Inception on a lot of levels.
Yeah, that's like full circle. If I ever maybe freelance with Panini again, that would be hilarious. That'd be so fun.
Yeah, I think you just need to chase that down. You just need to like approach them and be like, hey, listen, I think we need to make this happen.
Yeah, that'd be so awesome.
This is kind of a fun question and maybe a little bit more of a practical one, but this person just noticed, you do a lot of typesetting, a lot of lettering, and they want to know if you have any just practical tips or secrets on how to explore typeface combinations without buying all the fonts.
Yeah, that's interesting. So something I do is with lettering and specifically logo type design, that's a big focus of what we do. When we create brand identities, there's always the symbol we make, but then also the type, like the name of the brand that we design, logo type. And sometimes we create that completely from scratch. Like that's me getting into Illustrator. I'm using the pen tool. I'm using just basic shapes. Whether that starts from a sketch or if I just get right in there. If I do it that way, that took a lot of time to be able to get to that point to draw my own letters. And that's learning the fundamentals of type design. That's learning from type experts, letters. I mentioned Simon Walker in my talk, a fellow, he lives in Chicago now, but he was in Austin when I was there. Learning from him, like, hey, how do you go about creating custom letters? Like, how do you do it? Starting from the ground up, learning from other people, reading books, watching Skillshare videos, YouTube videos, like as many sources you can to learn. In my case, just learning about the fundamentals of type. And so building type from scratch. But another thing we do is we take standard fonts and I customize certain letters out of them. So, with the question, how do you create lettering or custom letters or logos without having to buy all these fonts? Sometimes it's just taking very basic, simple fonts and then making it your own. So maybe you're using Helvetica or Gotham or just like a basic sans serif typeface. How can I alter the letters if it's a specific letter? If there's letters when I type out a name or a brand, are there letters that work well with each other? Can I combine crossbars with each other, ligatures, uppercase, lowercase combinations? It's studying what you have in front of you and kind of going down a checklist of all the different possibilities you can do. It's like, okay, so I have these letters. Maybe I can alter this letter this way. Oh, I see how these letters interact with each other. Maybe I could do this. And it's doing countless iterations of it. So copy, paste. I have like 20, 30 different, explorations of the same thing. And again, analyze it. Okay, what's working the best? Narrow it down. Like, here's what I think is working the best. Now I have an option. With us, we usually present, 2 to 3 options. If it's for like a logo type, how can I do 2 to 3 different variations of that? And it's also just looking up at stuff that's been done, Dribbble, Behance, Pinterest, Instagram, other designers' websites that you know of. What are they doing? Like, how can I get inspired with, like, oh, wow, I love what this studio did with this, like, REA combination or whatever it is, how can I get inspired to bring that into my own work and kind of learn that way as well? Not being afraid to mimic what other people have done. And just like, that's a great way to learn as well. That, that applies throughout history with art. Painters would practice mimicking other masters' work until they were a master themselves and then they could go off and do their own thing. Same thing can apply to lettering, logo type design, customizing letters. So
Yeah, that's super practical and helpful for whoever asked that question. That's awesome. I have a feeling that your answer to this question is going to be Danielle. But what does your intake process look like? Do you use a specific program to keep jobs organized? How do you stay on top of business things?
Danielle, for sure. I mean, I can't stress this enough. Danielle handles a lot of the behind the scenes things that we do. So when a client emails us, hey, we'd love to possibly work with you, Danielle will set up a Zoom call usually. She's really good at vetting, kind of going down a checklist like, is this a good lead? And she sets up the call. We have she set up a kind of like a questionnaire, like a initial client call document that we use just in like Google Docs that has all these questions that we ask our clients. And, from there, if everything's still good and, they still want to work with us, Danielle sets up the proposal. Here's the deliverables, the budget, stuff like that, the timeline. Danielle handles all of that. And we send it to the client. If they approve, they sign off, and then we immediately get into it. So Danielle does, if she was here, she could ramble on for an hour with all the work that she does. But, whether you're able to do that yourself or you can find a partner or work with somebody, like I said, in my own personal journey, I wasn't the best at that. And when Danielle came in, she really was a game changer in how we do all of that, and how we organize everything. So yes, I think short answer, it is Danielle. If you can find yourself a Danielle, I would recommend it. That's just my personal opinion. But
Yeah. So this is kind of a follow-up to that one. And you might not be able to answer this. We might need Danielle there to be able to answer this, but this person wants to know how much time is spent during your week with new business development. How much time per week, how much time per month do you what percentage is business development versus like design work?
Sure. So when we first started, I've been freelancing like when I had full-time jobs, and during that time, I was basically not doing very much new business at all, like almost zero. And it was during that time, like I was getting a lot of work just coming in naturally without having to do a lot of work. I was very grateful for that. And I kind of just rode the wave for a while. When 2020 hit, we made it more of a point to be more active with new business development. And yes, Danielle handles a lot of that. And that's like, we've kind of made it a point to send at least 3 emails a week that's to like brands we want to work with, people in the industry we want to work with. So as far as percentage, I don't have an exact number. I know that it's a lot more of a priority now. And so every week we're trying to be active about, hey, let's try to email some people. Let's have some conversations with some people, even if it's through Zoom. And over time, if you're able to do that every week over the course of some months, chances are, somebody's going to reach back out to you. And even if that's not immediate, maybe you reach out to somebody, have a conversation with them. You might not even hear back from them in like a year, but it's like, you'd be surprised. It's like, oh my gosh, like they're reaching out again. And it's because we did that new business outreach. And so my advice would be like, try to be active weekly, even if that's just emailing a few people. That's like finding maybe creative directors. LinkedIn's been a big thing again, which has been kind of interesting, is like getting back on LinkedIn, connecting with people. It's been a great resource for us. But I don't know the exact percentage, but I know though it's a much bigger priority for us, is just being more active with new business development. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's super helpful. And we've got all kinds of people in this club watching this meeting who are in different stages of their career. So I think that's really helpful for, so many creatives in their career at some point have been like, okay, I'm going to make the jump to freelance. And so I think that that's a really helpful, thing to just keep in mind. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. So like, if I'm going to do this, then every week I got to, be proactive, be sending out emails. Like work isn't just going to just flow into me, or maybe it will for a while, but at some point you have to, kind of flip a switch and do the put in the work. So
Yeah, and
super helpful.
and like I mentioned in the talk, that consistency, like putting your work out there consistently, as many places as you can, because people won't see your work unless it's out there, and they won't know about your work until they find it. And then if you combine that with actively reaching out to people and brands and studios, that's like the magic recipe. Like something good is going to come from that. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that's I think anybody who's in that boat will find that helpful for sure. So now we're going to jump back to the type question we had. So now a follow-up question was, is there a wrong way to modify a type?
Yes, good question. So in my experience, modifying type, usually when it comes down to it, less is more. And so in my iterations that I do before I get to the final options, usually I'm pushing it to the max. Like I'm customizing every letter, or I'm seeing like how extreme can I customize it. And usually when I do that, I'm analyzing everything again. Like more often than not, I'm like, man, that's just too much. Like, let's tone this back. Let's tone it back again. Like constantly seeing that. Sometimes overdoing it can feel like it's forced. So usually when it's just like one letter or a couple letters and there's a subtle, unique twist that you did to it, that's always enough. And that's, the viewer can understand that. It still keeps the simple essence there. In my case, I do a lot of very modern, simple type customization. Some typographers and letters, they go extreme. Like maybe it's, really ornate, hand-drawn script. It really just depends on what, style you're doing, what you're trying to do. In my case, with more modern, simple type customization, simplicity is the key. So another thing too is like, just try not to force custom elements to type if it doesn't work. And usually you'll know when it doesn't work. It's like there's just something off. Some letters lend itself better to customizing, like the letter O or an I, or, sometimes like a Z, like those could be hard letters to customize. So, E's, A's, R's, G's, like those are great letters to customize, like look there first. And knowing like in the back of your mind, all the different variations that you can do with those letters, it's kind of like solving a puzzle, like what can I do here? And then just finding that balance, like when should I stop doing it, and knowing when to, restrain yourself, like not do anymore. That takes time. But once you get there, you'll kind of know, like, I think I've done enough here. Like, let's finalize this.
Yeah. Those are great tips there for custom type, man. So I think that you kind of touched on this a little bit as well, talking about like, as you're going through school, some of those designers that you really looked up to, but this question is, where do you draw inspiration from? So, and then maybe kind of piggybacked into that, it's like, somebody wants to know, how do you get out of a creative slump? So I feel like those kind of, a lot of times can go hand in hand. Like, so where do you get inspiration from? And then if you're in a slump, where do you get inspiration from, or how do you get out of that?
Sure. So with my inspiration, when I found like the design era of the 1960s and 70s, I was just blown away. And I like immediately knew that was the kind of work that I wanted to make. Paul Rand was one of my biggest type designers that has influenced my work over the years. I just loved the work that he was making, why he was making it. I was just drawn to that. And so that simple, modern, timeless aesthetic is what I tried to incorporate into my own work. It's what I naturally love, what I'm drawn to, what I'm passionate about. And that was just being exposed to them when I learned about them. Like I mentioned, in college, we started with the Bauhaus design era, which is also a big influence to me as well. And we learned about the history of graphic design. And when we got to, like I said, that 60s, 70s era, I was hooked. So that was a big influence, and still a big influence to me today, with what I create today. In terms of, getting out of a design slump or, burnout. Like everything I'm making is just not working. What I found is usually that's due to me just like my life is not balanced, like outside of design. Whether that's I'm stressed, I'm not getting enough sleep, I'm not eating well, I'm not going outside enough. I'm overindulging in design. Like I'm just like constantly being fed on my phone. Like I'm like in the world of design too much. That's usually when I feel burned out, which is really funny. And so usually when I take a step back, I don't think about design, that always gets me rejuvenated again. And it's something that I'm still practicing today. I mean, I still find myself getting overwhelmed or getting burned out or getting into slumps. So I have to constantly remind myself, hey, like go outside, like go to a park, right? Uh, go get interested in something else. Like maybe it's architecture, photography, sports, video games, like whatever it is. Like have something else that you're interested in that you can take your mind off of design for a while and find that balance. Again, it's hard, especially in my case when we got kids thrown into the mix. Sometimes you're designing, you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't slept in like 3 weeks, and you just got to go in it and you got to force yourself to do it. So it's like finding that balance in your life. That always tends to get me out of those slumps, and sometimes it's just getting away from technology too. Just not getting overstimulated, getting off Instagram. I know it's easy to scroll. I do it every day, but just finding that balance, I think, is what helps with those slumps.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we got time for a couple more questions here. This is kind of a fun one, I think. This question is, what do you see as the biggest change or changes in the business of design during your career? So during your career, what have you seen as like the biggest changes in the business of design?
That's an interesting question. In my case, how I was able to get work and like when I think of my own business as a freelance business, I mentioned it in the talk. I was becoming, active in places like Dribble, and Instagram for designers was just starting. And like, truth be told, maybe I was in like the right place at the right time back then. There are all these platforms coming out where I could share my work, and the amount of people and clients and inquiries coming my way was so great. And I feel very fortunate to have had that in the start of my career. And so, again, I rode that wave for a while. And so like that business part of just getting work was, somewhat easy or at least natural for me. And I know that's changed today. Like, I know these platforms are a lot different. Like Dribble's different. Instagram with algorithms and ads is different. And there's so many people on there today. Technology, I would say, is a big thing that's changing so much, especially with the business sides of things. I would say though, that with the changing times and all these things happening, you mentioned NFTs too. That's a different thing coming up, and like trying to stay on top of the new thing all the time. I would say that there's still some underlying things that I think stand the test of time, especially when it comes to business. And, that's just, again, connecting with people, reaching out to people, working really hard, being passionate about what you do, learning constantly. I mentioned this before from Brian Winkler, like comfort killing creativity. That can be applied to business. Like comfort could kill business if you just get into this, like, I'm gonna stay in my ways and I know everything and I'm gonna be okay 10 years from now. Well, chances are that that's probably not gonna happen. Like getting out of your comfort zone, like what's going on, like what are other business people doing outside of the design industry? Like how are they working? Like, is it video now that I'm implementing? Like how can I button up my portfolio with a new website, with the new website technologies coming out? Like how do I apply all the new things into my own self and learn from that? But like keeping those core, just hardworking business, skills and attitudes, and like keeping that consistent. I think that's what's going to stand the test of time. So I know it's out there, and especially for young creatives, like it can be very overwhelming. Like, oh my gosh, like things are changing so fast. Like, how do I keep up? I think just like staying true to yourself, not, all those things that I mentioned, I think you're going to be fine that way. So.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's crazy how much things have changed in such a short amount of time. Like these platforms we're on can all just like shift and bob and weave and
Yep.
turn into completely different things. So I think this is a good follow-up question and to that last one. And then maybe I think this could be a great one to end on. So this person just wants to know, what are your next steps as a designer and where do you see yourself going from here generally?
Yes. Well, I wish I had a clear answer to that, but we love branding, we love brand identity type design. I'd love to do that as long as I can. Something that I am very interested in personally too is art. It's something that I've always kind of done on the side. It's actually, I did painting in college. I've done painting on the side throughout my design career. I'd love to maybe do that more in the future, whether that's painting, digital art. I think that's something to keep an eye on, but for sure, I feel so fortunate to be in an industry in graphic design, specifically with branding, illustration, packaging, and falling in love with that and knowing that's my passion. And when I wake up every day, knowing I love to do that, I want to do that as long as I can. But you know what? If I lose that passion, if I wake up one day and I'm not interested in that, I'm not going to do it. And if that means I'm going to do art more or something else, that's what I'll do when I find that. But at this moment, I still want to continue to grow, to learn, also helping people. Love helping younger designers, fellow designers. It's what we always try to do when we can, is give back. So want to continue doing that. So
awesome. Well, Steve, I can't thank you enough for being the capstone to our season and rounding out this virtual DSVC speaker series season. You were a great one to end on. So thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody who joined us online tonight. And we will, at this point, hopefully we'll see everybody who's here. We'll see you at the Dallas show. So make sure that you get a ticket to the Dallas show so that you can see all of that awesome work from Dallas creatives. And then beyond that, we will see everybody next year. So Steve,